Welcome to our third live stream for Wednesday One Thing. Wednesday One Thing for the general viewing audience is a time for us at Clearbanc to get together and share one really interesting piece of news or reports that we found out in the wild. We share it among our own team to really help ourselves further our understanding of the technology and e-commerce space, and then we share it with the broader universe to really get you guys on board and let you know what we're doing here at Clearbanc. Today we have a really awesome trend report, and Cam, who is one of our account managers, is going to be presenting it. So everyone give it up for Cam.
So, hey guys, hey everyone on LinkedIn. So my name is Cameron. I'm an account manager here at Clearbanc. Let me figure this part out first. And for my Wednesday One Thing, one thing that I want to discuss with everyone, kind of just talk about, is a common conversation that every single one of us are having here every day with the founders that we support here at Clearbanc. And really that's along how are we helping founders with their capital needs, but most importantly, what are their marketing priorities? And a lot of that discussion comes to, hey, if we gave you capital today, what is the first thing that you would do with it? What are you focused on, and so forth? And a lot of that has been revolved around, well, we want to acquire new users. We want to build awareness. And I found that really interesting because I think when we look at the space today, e-commerce and traditional retail kind of vary in a lot of ways. So I'm kind of going to jump into a little bit of like my background. I think that'll kind of set the stage of like where I'm coming from, all the great stuff I've learned by working with these new D2C companies through Clearbanc. So just to begin, my background, I worked with traditional retailers for just under 4 years. And really the number one objective with every single one of these brick and mortar retailers was, how can you drive people to my store? Get them to my doors to purchase. And that is all that mattered to them. Obviously things like personalization, mobile friendly strategies were important, but if you can put someone into their store or convert them to their site to purchase, that was the most important thing for them. And after talking with a lot of the founders that we work with today on their direct to consumer brands and their e-commerce brands, I found that they do share a lot of similar priorities as traditional retailers, but there are a couple of key differences between traditional retailers and these D2C brands. So I'm just going to open up the floor for you guys as well, but does anyone know what one kind of difference would be between a traditional retailer versus a direct-to-consumer brand and what their marketing investment priorities would be? It could be anything.
Would a traditional retailer be more like drop shipping?
No, so traditional retail, I'm actually talking about brick and mortar retailers, your standard Walmarts, your gen merches, your electronic stores.
The experience is like completely different.
For sure.
Like out of home.
Yeah. So you're talking about different strategies of how to reach them. That varies.
Brick and mortar stores addressable market is only you can actually get to that location.
For sure.
Versus in D2C online branding could be, you could be in New York selling people in LA.
So that's actually a really big one. A low barrier to entry, especially for these D2C brands, which is what we've seen a lot versus brick and mortar. Bradley, go ahead.
Maybe drive foot traffic versus online traffic.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the biggest things or drivers, to your point, Riley, of driving that foot traffic, and even just working with retailers in my past, what I found was that traditional retailers focus heavily on heavy promotions. Pricing is a really big thing, especially in today's dating world where Amazon is there eating kind of their lunch. And because of that, a lot of these retailers are competing on price. What really happens when you compete on price is that you kind of lose that brand equity with the shopper. The shopper now has entered a price war where they're going to go to someone that has the best price, not necessarily the best experience. And it's an ongoing battle. It works for a lot of retailers like Walmart, who are everyday low price. But for a lot of high and low pricing strategies, it's really tough for these brick and mortars to compete. The difference is that when we look at these D2C consumers, and even speaking to the founders that, even as an account manager here, and I bet you the same conversations that you guys are having, is a lot of these founders and these companies that we work with, they found a lot of early success by creating that best customer experience and building a brand that resonates with their shoppers so that these shoppers are actually coming back to their site to make that purchase. And that's really, really important when we look at how we look at supporting our founders today and this variety of D2C brands. So just to jump kind of into it, I kind of found this article on eMarketer. I've seen it circulated amongst the team as well. But really, when we look at some of the most successful D2C brands, when we ask them what is your priority, and even the conversations that you guys today are having with them, it's what are you using your capital for? It's marketing acquisition. And that is the forefront of creating a customer experience that is enjoyable for shoppers. In order to have a great customer experience, you need to be able to actually reach the right shopper. And in doing so, you got to know where to reach that right shopper. So even just from this D2C study from 2018, you'll see that acquisition, marketing, and retention are the highest priorities of where they'll put their dollar when they're investing in their strategy. But what's really interesting is that when we look at how are these shoppers finding out about these brands, it actually comes from the three channels that a lot of our founders are using our capital for. It's coming from online search, so Google. It's coming from SEO efforts, but most importantly, it's coming from display and paid ads across social media channels like Facebook, Google, and so forth. And the reason why I want to jump into this a little bit more is because knowing that the capital that we're providing for our founders is going to channels like this, it's really also important to understand, well, what are these channels going to look like tomorrow? What are these channels going to look like 5 years from now? And how can we better attack the whole addressable market as our D2C founders are looking to continually grow their marketing acquisition? So another report that I have here just from eMarketer, or even just before I jump into that, is just looking at the overall size of prize. When we look at the US alone today, there's over 284 million internet users. An internet user is someone that literally accesses the internet via their mobile device, their desktop, at least once a week or once a month. But it's also someone that is, I guess the best way to say it, will be intercepted by these digital channels. So essentially what you can look at here is in 2019 alone in the US, there's 284 million shoppers that our D2C brands can reach. And by 2023, that's going to grow to just under 300 million. So again, the size of prize is there. It's a growing industry. It's important for our shoppers, for our brands to be in front of those shoppers. But what's really interesting is to see, well, where are those digital ad dollars for acquisition going? When we look at overall US digital ad spend, you'll see that this year alone, across channels like Facebook, Google, YouTube, you'll notice that over 130 or just under 130 billion dollars will be spent on digital ads this year alone in the US. And that number is consistently growing year over year. And by 2023, around $200 billion will be spent on digital ad platforms like Facebook, Google, and Amazon. So the reason why I want to walk you guys through this is because our founders know that they have a very small percentage of the size of prize, and they can continue to grow their efforts to grow their acquisition and grow their user base. Well, what's really interesting is how is that going to change year over year? As we all know right now, Google and Facebook pretty much have an oligopoly when it comes to digital ad spend. In 2019 alone, when we look at just companies, they make up almost $75 billion of total ad revenue today. And again, these channels are proven effective for our founders and these D2C brands. But we know guys like Amazon and other channels are slowly clawing their way back at these platforms as being a trusted channel to grow your shopper base. So just looking at the trend report, even as we go through the next couple of years, you'll notice that Amazon is slowly increasing. And even a lot of what the founders that we work with today, a lot of them are doing distribution across Amazon, a lot of ad placements across Amazon. A lot of them are now dabbling in podcasts across streaming platforms. So it's not going to be an end-all say of Google and Facebook and Instagram. Rather, there's so many different channels to help our D2C brands actually grow their customer acquisition. And that's really all I want to walk you guys through today. It was a short one. I think it's kind of like we all know how big the market is and how small of a pie our D2C founders have and how much opportunity is to grow. But as we look throughout the year, the next 5 years, a lot is going to change. And it's our role here as helping our founders to understand what are the channels that are going to drive the biggest bang for the buck. What are the channels where they see the most opportunity to grow their overall user base? And most importantly, how is the best way they can spend their capital to continue building their brand equity? And that's pretty much it. Yeah. I'll open up for some questions. One thing that I noticed, I read a couple of articles and a lot of great debates about this, was the fact that to what you mentioned earlier, because brick and mortar is a lot harder to set up versus direct to consumer has a low barrier to entry. For that reason, it's a recipe for market saturation. And so when we look at channels like Instagram and Facebook, people are wondering, is there a tipping point where these brands will see that their CAC, their cost of acquiring a consumer, is actually going to be much higher than the lifetime value of that consumer. And so a lot of the opinions there have been, yes, that is going to happen. I don't know if you guys follow Mary Meeker and her Internet Trends report from 2019. It's a great read. I recommend everyone take a look at it. But this is something that they're expecting in the next 2 years to be a market saturation of. I've just seen too many ads. I don't care for them. So how can we help our founders combat that? I think that's something we have to start thinking about. A lot of the focus has been on, well, you know what? If you're going to build your brand today, make sure that in 2 years you build your brand, that the customer experience is top notch, and that's something they're always going to be coming back to. And it's something that we should always be focused on moving forward, especially when it comes to our founders today. Question for the floor?
So Cam, how often do you or any of the employees run into, I'm doing influencer marketing right now, it's going really well for me. How does Clearbanc approach influencer marketing, and how do we position ourselves with, providing capital?
Sorry, so the question was, a lot of our founders are coming to us today to the AM team, the account management team, and asking how they should approach influencer marketing strategies. Me personally, I haven't had too many come to us. We've actually recommended. I know we have a great partnership with #Paid, and they're doing a lot of great things to build brand equity for a lot of these companies. Again, from our point of view, though, we always go with, I can't speak for every AM, but I know we always go with what works best for you. Where are you seeing the highest return? Are you seeing you building enough brand equity clout from influencer marketers? If so, let's make sure you put your dollar there. But at first, you always want to put your dollar to the channel that's going to drive the lowest cost per acquisition of that shopper. And that's really been kind of the focus. And channels that have proven to be successful there have been primarily display and search across the internet.
Chiming into that, influencer marketing usually works hand in hand with a lot of the subscription box companies you work with. And those tend to be the ones that use influencer marketing as opposed to SEO or any paid ads.
Warren?
Yeah, one of the interesting things that I've actually noticed with ads, and I think this chart illustrates it, is that there is a huge amount of saturation with Facebook. So you see a lot of diminishing market returns to those channels, and you're seeing, other channels, like if you go to New York and you go on their subway, there's an ad everywhere for all these direct-to-consumer brands. So they're utilizing new channels, but what do you see as sort of a barrier for a emerging brand, to avoid this saturation? What other tools do they have available to them that they can, they're not going to always get this huge return from Facebook, but Casper is going to start running cheap ads on the subway, or they're going to be able to compete on these new frontiers that are sort of old media. So what do you think an emerging brand has in order to combat the diminishing returns from Facebook versus the new / more traditional methods there?
Well, first and foremost, I think getting in early is your first advantage. That early mover stage, in my opinion, is in 2 years might be obsolete because you won't be an early adopter or mover in. So getting your brand story out there well in advance is really important. Focusing on that customer experience as well. So again, if your ads that you're buying are at a CPC, CPM level, again, that's all more so awareness play to get them into your actual storefront. So when you actually get someone into your site now, I think the biggest bang for your buck now is investing the resources and capital into building an experience that's going to resonate with that shopper, so that you're not lost amongst the mix and you're not going to be forgotten as that brand. One example I would say that we work with are a couple of the founders that we work with. Their actual site experience is bar none better than some of the traditional retailers that we work with, that are the big box retailers in this world. And the reason is because they put an emphasis on creating that best brand experience and customer experience. So my advice, again, would be always focus on the customer experience and that journey, because in 2 years, you don't want to just be inundated by several hundred ads and just trying to pump as many impressions out as possible to drive people to convert. It's about building the experience first and then going from there.
I'll add something in there too. One thing I think that I've noticed a lot of our customers is the ones that tend to grow really fast are the ones where they've identified something like a changing consumer trend, that they can really ride off on. So like one thing is sustainability, right? Customers right now are a lot more concerned with, not just what product they're getting, but like how has it been made? Is it environmentally friendly? Is there like, something there that is good for the environment, good for a social cause, things like that. And I think that like businesses that have identified that in advance, and again, like an early adopter, have really had success because, specifically like millennials, our priorities are changing, right? It's not just what you're getting, it's where it's coming from, how it's made, and things like that as well.
Any other questions? No? Comments?
Good job, buddy.
Good job.
Nice
Yeah.
job. Yeah.